Hello. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you are. I am Allison Mata, and I am presently your sole host for our continuing coverage of the state of Arizona versus Lori Vallow Daybell, day 6 of the state's case in chief. So I just got a call from Bob. He's like, hey, I was like, oh, I'm coming. He's like, well, I'm not there. And I was like, oh, shit, I didn't know. I kind of like having this buffer of where Bob can go live without me and I can try to make myself look presentable, which I didn't finish doing. But here you have me. And Bob should be with us any minute. We did try to get some extra blooping time. It looks like we've got 32 minutes, which is good. However, there is a good there's a good 15, maybe 10, about 15 minutes of argument in front of the judge, and then we've got about 16 minutes of blooping once the actual testimony resumes with Lori's cross-examination of the officer who did her interrogation. So let me just see. All right. So without seeing any questions from you guys, I guess we'll just jump right in and see what Lori is arguing. And I wonder if the prosecution feels like they might wrap up even before Thursday. As of yesterday, the prosecution said they thought their case in chief would be done on Thursday. And I wonder if that needle will move up, the timeline will move forward, given the length of Lori's cross-examinations. But all right.
To discuss a few of the motions before we bring in the jury at about 10:15.
Judge, I do have one other thing to raise that goes back to what we dealt with yesterday. Apparently, Ms. Vallow also attempted service on another one of the next of kin in Louisiana, Larry Woodcock. Again, that information, including his address, which she should not have access to, and in violation of victims' rights and the Arizona Constitution, was filed with the clerk's office. So we have with multiple people that she's subpoenaing that are not on her 15.2, that she's violating victims' rights for. So I'm going to ask, of course, the court seal that subpoena as well, since it includes his address.
All right, it's ordered sealing any subpoena that was filed relating to Larry Woodcock.
And just for those of you getting in now, we are about 30 minutes behind time. That gives us 30 minutes of blooping. Right now, they're going to spend about 10 more minutes discussing pretrial or trial issues. And then we're going to resume with the testimony. So we won't have too much blooping time, but giving you guys some time to get in here. So yes, thank you, Chris. I get my green. I've won back the right to green chili chicken enchiladas. Um, none for Bob this time. I still want mine with that hatch chili too. So, um, there you have that. All right. Uh, and again, we just got started. We're about 30 minutes behind. The prosecutor's currently whining about more subpoenas that were filed not under seal. I have no idea. I can't imagine that that is actually Lori's, like directly Lori's responsibility. So I don't know that the prosecutor's tone is warranted, but you know, so be it. All right.
Do you have outstanding subpoenas on next of kin or, well, let's start with there, next of kin?
Let me check, Your Honor. Check on that, Your Honor, but not that we're aware of.
As to the extent that you have subpoenas for next of kin on either of your cases, you need to coordinate the service of those subpoenas through the county attorney's office. They can facilitate in that and getting those people served if they are indeed witnesses that have relevant information in these cases.
And both of those people, Your Honor, Robert Vallow and Larry Woodcock, were not on my list and were not intended to be subpoenaed. So it was an oversight.
So I don't know how OPDS got that information to serve them subpoenas. So
They are-
someone on your team needs to double check with OPDS that the correct people are being subpoenaed.
And Your Honor, they are signed by the defendant. So
All right.
she is the one who's signing those subpoenas. She is the one acting as counsel. So she is the one asking to send those out.
So how was it an oversight?
I just signed them all and we got them prepared and I signed them all and I did not check them. It's my own fault. But I apologize to the families.
So do you know the names of all the people you subpoenaed or you just signed a stack of subpoenas?
I did sign the SAC, but I thought I was aware of that they were the ones that I had asked to subpoena.
For this trial or for the next one as well?
Just for this one, we haven't done our subpoenas yet for the next trial.
That's right. And for the next trial, I need you to be more diligent in what you're signing. And if there is a subpoena for someone who is a next of kin or a
So that answers that, people. She is planning on continuing to represent herself in the next trial. So I guess she thinks she's doing pretty damn well. She thinks she's doing a bang up job. She's so proud of herself. She's just going to continue representing herself. It's kind of crazy. And again, I think she loves the stage. She loves the power she thinks that she is getting for herself through this whole process. And it's just, I mean, how much more power do you need if you're already a goddess? Like, do you need to really like strut your power and show how powerful you are if you're a goddess? I mean, shouldn't a god be a little more humble? I don't know, guys. I don't know.
victim under the Victim's Bill of Rights, the subpoena that needs to be coordinated through county attorney's office, or is there a victim representative attorney? I haven't had one yet.
There is not a victim representative attorney, so it would come through us, Your Honor.
Okay. We sort of addressed the motion in limine yesterday about the questioning of any police personnel regarding the timing of the arrest, why the investigation took as long as it did, who was or wasn't arrested. Again, I'll ask the defendant, if you think those are questions that you need to ask, please ask to take a break first, but otherwise I'm expecting you to not ask those types of questions of any witness. We then have let's take up the Janice Cox and Summer Shiflett video.
I'm wondering what video.
You've had a
this
chance to
is.
review that?
I did.
What's your position on the state's motion?
Your Honor, I obviously think that it should not be precluded, that it is evidence in fact of why that happened on July 11th, that it happened. So if there had been no bat, there would have been no gun. It was a reason why self-defense was even an issue on that day, on July 11th.
Let me make sure I understand the state's position correctly. The state hasn't seen the actual video that these two witnesses have watched.
Correct. It
All right.
apparently.
So
was-
absent someone coming in and introducing the actual video into evidence, which could have its own evidentiary issues, but absent that, they can't testify in court about things they saw on a video because it's hearsay. They're testifying to
No.
things that they observed outside of court, and there's
However, if they relayed that information to Lori, its effect on the listener, or to Alex, its effect on the listener. I guess Lori or Alex, if Lori asked Alex to come and protect her, if it can explain some of their comments, it's not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted, whether what they saw on that video is what they saw. And I don't know if this is just going to be a matter of how Lori can explain it, or if the judge would be making the same decision no matter what. So we talked about hearsay exceptions before, and effect on the listener is one of those things where um, it's really not even hearsay at all, because it's being offered for the effect on the listener, not for the truth of the matter asserted. If they told Lori or Lori and Alex X, Y, and Z, we saw this on a video. Does not matter if they saw it on a video. Does not matter if what the video they saw was actually true. It just matters what information was conveyed to Lori. Now, this all depends on, I have no idea what they're talking about right now. I'm unaware of the video that they're talking about. But assuming what Lori is saying here, that it's why everything happened, then, what I'm saying about how it could be utilized, might be relevant, might be accurate, but we don't really know um, enough facts. So that's if you guys are even listening anymore, not just entertaining yourselves. But I love you entertaining yourselves. So
no verification, no way to cross-examine on that. So my ruling would be that unless some video comes in and someone lays foundation for that video, that no witness would be allowed to discuss what they saw, heard, or viewed in that video. All right. Then we have the state's third motion to preclude defendant's witnesses. Let's
Wow.
discuss. I'm going to ask you again, Ms. Daybell, how do you pronounce the first person's name? Baisa?
Vicia?
Baisia? Has your team
does anyone know about this video? So it's Summer and um is that her mom and her sister? Let me just see if I can.
And that information, including his address.
Like,
So I don't know how OPDS got that. I need you to, it took as long as it did, who was or wasn't arrested. Again, I'll
Right here.
ask. We then have let's take up the Janice Cox and Summer Shiflett video. You've had a chance to review that.
I did.
What's your position on the state's motion?
Your Honor, I obviously think that it should not be precluded, that it is evidence in fact of why.
Yeah, so her mom and her sister, and the judge precluded it. I don't know if he's precluding them, but it kind of leads right into the next motion.
Honor.
What about Gabriel Bonilla? Have the state's third motion to preclude defendant's witnesses? Let's discuss. I'm going to ask you again, Ms. Daybell, how do you pronounce the first person's name? Baisa?
Vicia?
Baisia? Has your team or your investigator, anyone been able to locate that person?
I would have to check with my investigator, Your Honor.
What about Gabriel Bonilla?
I know that he has made contact several times with Gabriel. I don't know if he has interviewed him, but I know that he's made contact with him several times.
Do you know if he's been served with a subpoena?
We're looking that up now.
So I don't
And while
know.
you're at it, I'm going to ask about Ashlyn Rind and Barry Cox.
Okay. What does it say?
So what I can't figure out is what video it is that Lori is mentioning that they watched that she wanted them to testify about. Um, I don't know if any of you know that either. I mean, it's kind of impossible to Google, like, what video was Lori talking about? Like, that's not gonna pan out, but, um, hmm, right now, the judge is talking about whether they're gonna exclude all her witnesses.
So it looks like that Ashlyn Wren was not served or found, that Gabe Bonilla, OPDS, several times tried to serve that subpoena and it has not been served. And I'm not sure on the Barry Cox.
All right, well, as was indicated by the state yesterday, they may be resting their case in chief sometime Thursday, at the latest Monday. So you're kind of out of time on producing these witnesses for interview. I shouldn't say you're kind of out of time. You are out of time.
Wow, she's not gonna be able to put on a
I don't know that I need
defense,
to
though.
effectively preclude them because you haven't been able to serve them or get them to appear, in which case they wouldn't be called as witnesses. In the event that they are served or surfaced, we'd still need to have a discussion of whether they have any relevant information and whether they should still be precluded because of the late disclosure of what that testimony might be. So unless they're produced to the state for an interview here within the next day or two, they would be effectively precluded. Even if they are produced for an interview, they still could be precluded. Zachary Cox, let's talk about Zachary Cox. Has he been subpoenaed? The state has interviewed that witness apparently, but based on their motion, they don't believe he has any relevant information to offer for this trial. Do you believe he has relevant information to offer?
I do, Your Honor.
And what is that?
He was with my brother, Adam Cox, that day on the 11th and was in communication with Adam and Charles during that day and prior to that day.
What testimony would he offer that would be admissible, that would be relevant to either self-defense or this did or didn't occur?
He would be able to testify about what Adam already testified to, verify it or unverify it,
What
challenge
specifically?
the testimony of Adam.
about what their itinerary was during that day and the day before and the following day.
What's important is your knowledge of it, though, what you knew.
When did this, well, the state interviewed this witness?
Obviously, I had no idea what he would be called about. So I talked to him for a few minutes. I
Did he have any idea what he would be called about?
no,
All
I
right.
think unless the defendant's
Here's the problem, and I feel like the judge needs to be giving Lori a little bit of leeway. No one will talk to her. She does not have the cooperation of anyone. So her only option is to subpoena them and ask them these questions, in court. And if that has to be by a voir dire, then that's what he should be saying. That, well, we're going to have you voir dire the witness outside of the presence of the jury to determine whether or not the witness knows anything, has any information that is relevant. She can't say everything that they know because she doesn't know everything they know. She doesn't have access to these people. She can't interview them. She can't talk to them. They won't cooperate with her investigator. She can't even get them served. I mean, her doing a speedy trial was the stupidest thing ever. I mean, she had to know that pretty much they've got all their ducks in a row because they got everything that they had from the trial in Idaho, and they'd been working on this case all this time that she's been going through everything else. So I don't know what she thought, how this motion for a speedy trial was going to benefit her, but she's about to have 0 witnesses. And yeah, um, as Camilla said, it's all on her. Sure is.
says that he's relevant to impeach Adam in some way, then I don't really understand the relevant. I mean, she just said that he could be testify to verify what Adam said. So she's going to call him to
Verify.
confirm that what Adam said was correct.
She used a new word.
Is that, he would be confirming what Adam said, or would he be disputing what Adam said? What specifically? Can you give me some more specifics?
From his interview with my investigator, he would be disputing what Adam said.
Well, then I'm not aware of that interview with my understanding and interviewing the defense Jeff White, is that basically they spoke for a brief time. It got heated.
Who's
and
they?
Jeff White and Zachary Cox. They did not have a full interview, is my understanding. I've not been provided with a recording of that, but in my discussion, my interview of Jeff White as a potential witness, he advised just that that Zach had advised that he had lived with them, meaning Charles and Lori, prior to them moving into this house, prior to them being separated. And that's about the extent of what I understood their interview to be. But maybe Mr. White can provide information as to how he.
Illuminate us.
Mr. White, do you have any
Illuminate us, Mr.
information
White.
on, you interviewed Zachary Cox?
Yes.
All right. And did Mr. Cox provide information that would be relevant to this trial to you?
When I spoke to Mr. Cox, he was, in short, he was very belligerent. When we had spoken, I was asking about information about his father and him, as well as with Charles. The information that I did obtain from him did not agree with what his father had told me in the interview through the state.
His father being?
Adam.
Do you know if Zachary Cox has been served a subpoena?
As far as I know, I think that went through OPDS.
All right. I guess we'll see if he actually gets served and shows up at court. He may not, in which case it's not an issue I need to deal with. But if he does show
What?
up, we will need to flesh out whether he has relevant information and whether he should be allowed to testify.
Not an issue he needs to deal with. But someone just doesn't appear on their subpoena. The state gets time to track them down. I don't get it. Now, if you remember, Zach was there. He was the nephew that was in the house when Charles was talking to the Gilbert police, saying that the nephew's not even answering his text messages. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know if the kids are safe. You know, that whole scenario. All right.
All right, who's the state going to be calling today?
Your Honor, the state, obviously, we still have a witness on the stand. And then, as I advised, we'll be calling Ariel Werther.
Also, too.
And then we would call Detective Duncan. So we
Okay.
may finish tomorrow, Your Honor.
Okay. My staff just signaled me that the last juror did just show up. Okay, we'll bring the jury in. Let's have that witness come back up.
I'm assuming this is her actual lawyer speaking to her advisory counsel.
Kind of deferring, but not really.
Bloop, bloop. Bloop, bloop, bloop.
Go ahead and resume your cross.
Detective England, yesterday we were talking about the chain of custody of the phone, so I have a couple questions on that. Yesterday we talked about that Charles' phone went from your hands to the property room, is that correct?
No.
Okay. Where
When I
did
ex- when I explained to you, it's our computer crimes division, the
Okay.
detectives that do the downloads. Our property room is about a mile away from the police department.
Okay. So it went from your hands to the Computer Crimes Division, is that correct?
Correct. We usually take phones directly to them.
And how long was that between the time you left?
I mean, she's doing this whole chain of custody thing when I'll tell you this much. A cell phone, now let's ignore what's going on in Karen Reed because that's different. There's like data missing or possibly data deleted or whatever the case may be. But a chain of custody is to make sure that, like, think about it like back in the 90s or was it the 80s when like everybody was worried that babies were being switched at birth or being taken from the hospital and be like, follow the baby. I always told Bob, even when my kids were born, follow the baby. Make sure that leave me, follow the baby. So to make sure what was taken is what they have at the end. Cell phones, things like that, they've got identifying features. They've got, you know, serial numbers and IMEI numbers and other things that confirm a chain of custody. So unless Lori is trying to say that they somehow added these texts, like I didn't text that and who had the phone, so somebody else like somehow made these this text history up or something like that, it's all pointless what she's doing right now because the chain of custody for something that is identifiable and can't be mixed up, switched, changed, or altered is different. And obviously, like I said, it depends on the factual scenario because in Karen Reed, you had things like there was a video somebody watched on John's phone, and then the video disappeared and no one ever watched it again. Um, or things being inverted and changed that are otherwise identifiable, but I doubt that that's an issue in this case. So let's just watch Lori waste some time.
The house and you delivered that phone to them?
It's about 20-minute drive or so, and then just to the PD and upstairs to where their office is.
Okay. And who did you turn that over to at the Computer Crimes Division?
Sergeant Olness was the sergeant of the unit at the time.
And did you use the passcode to access the phone at all?
I did not. I don't do downloads or exams of devices.
Okay. Did you look to see if the threatening text messages from Charles did actually exist?
I did not do an exam of the phone.
Yesterday, we watched the clip of my interview with you, and we discussed the threatening text messages. Is that correct?
Correct. You told me about them.
And you stated that I did not show them to you. Is that correct?
You did not show them to me, no.
You didn't ask.
And did you ask me to show them to you?
I did not.
Had I been cooperative all that day?
Yes.
Do you think I would have shown them to you if you would have asked me?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Was Tylee also cooperative that day?
I believe so.
Was Alex cooperative that day
I don't know. I did not have contact with Alex.
at all?
I did not interview him or talk to him, no.
Did I, in fact, inform you during that interview that I would have to show you them to explain them?
I believe so.
But you never asked me to show them to you?
I did not.
Asked and answered. I was thinking about.
Did you ever request that I turn my phone over to you?
I did not.
Did you ever request that Tylee turn her phone over to you?
I did not.
In the course of your investigation, did you ever, in fact, see those threatening messages from Charles to me?
I did not. I did not look at any of the downloads of any of the phones.
Or in the reports or anything?
No,
You never came across those?
I did not review those reports or do any of the downloads of any of the phones.
You didn't review any of Detective Duncan's reports?
No,
None of Detective Moffat's reports?
no,
Okay. Were you aware of the reason why I had two phones at the time?
I was not.
Did you ask me?
No, I wasn't aware you had two phones.
In the course of your investigation, did you ever learn that Charles had stolen my phone, so I had to replace it?
Object to testifying.
Yep.
Move to strike.
Sustained.
Your Honor, it's all part of the investigation.
And object again.
Sustained, it's testimony. The form of the question was testimony.
Were you aware that after he gave it back to me that I kept both phones?
I'm going to again object.
Sustained.
Detective,
To tell you the truth, I don't understand why she can't say, during the course of your investigation, did you learn that such and such had happened? If she wasn't the lawyer, her lawyer would be able to ask that question. But she is testifying. At least, well, wait, maybe the lawyer shouldn't be able to ask that question, but I'm just talking about what the prosecutor did. She did that with every single witness. So, you know, maybe it wouldn't be appropriate for the lawyer to do, but the prosecutor's been doing it and the judge has had no issue with it. That's um so and Bobby is home. Will be joining us shortly. Probably getting his iced coffee.
in the course of Detective, in the course of your investigation, did you learn that Charles had a $2 million life insurance policy on me?
I knew there was a life insurance policy. I don't know the amount.
Did you ever see it in any of the reports or,
I did not review and I was not part of that portion of the investigation.
and you never saw that on any kind of Bates numbers?
I'm going to object again to asked and answered.
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's different.
Go ahead.
You didn't see it on any kind of Bates numbers?
No, Bates would be what the county attorney does. That's after me, so I didn't review that portion of the report.
Okay. Yesterday, during your direct, you said that, or during our discussion, you said that we arrived at the Chandler Police Station and that we were taken into the Family Advocacy Center. Is that correct? Is
Correct.
that what it's called?
Yes, the FAC or Family Advocacy Center.
Okay. And was that just Tylee and myself that were taken to that part of the station?
I believe so, yes.
And so was Alex taken to the regular part of the police station?
He was in a different portion in an interview room in the persons crime section downstairs.
Okay. So we were taken into 3 different rooms, is that correct? When we arrived?
3 different interview rooms, yes.
And we were all 3 interviewed, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And you interviewed me, is that correct?
I did.
And you also interviewed Tylee, is that correct?
I did.
And Detective Moffett is the one that interviewed Alex, is that correct?
I believe so.
And these interviews were all video and audio recorded, is that correct?
I believe so.
And did you have a supervisor or superior there at the Chandler Police Station watching these interviews live from a viewing room?
Not a supervisor.
Who was it?
There was a detective in sex crimes that was monitoring the interviews in the Family Advocacy Center. It's kind of standard, particularly the fact that Tylee was alone in the interview room at some point. So she was monitoring both interviews. And I don't know if there was anybody monitoring Detective Moffitt's interview because I was not a part of that.
Okay. And what was her name? Detective what?
Ashley Nolan.
And then you said that you had, so you didn't go in and monitor during the interview with Detective Moffett and Alex? You didn't watch that one?
No, it was going on at the same time. I couldn't interview you and Tylee and monitor at the same time.
And then that means that Detective Duncan wasn't monitoring yours either at the same time, correct?
I don't know what Detective Duncan was doing.
I meant Detective Moffett, I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know. I believe he was talking to Alex, but
There's a little Karen Reed update for us. A jury has been seated today, 9 women, 9 men. Motion hearing tomorrow and opening statements on Tuesday. Well, I think we'll probably want to cover the motion hearing. Hopefully it's in the morning. Do we know? Let us know in the chat and I'll put it up. Gonna bloop it back.
But-
But he could have been monitoring yours and then talked to Alex after that, is that correct?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Were there other people in this monitoring room? that you know of?
I believe Detective Nolan was monitoring from her desk as the sex crimes detectives work within the Family Advocacy Center. They're in the same portion of the building.
Okay. So they can just monitor from their desk?
Correct.
They're not in like a separate room, is what you're saying?
No, there's a monitoring room upstairs in the dedicated suspect interview rooms, but none of those rooms were used in these 3 interviews that you're talking about.
Okay.
I know Bob actually did review some motions on Reed today. So when we break, we'll go over, and we are definitely going to cover. It's perfect timing, and even if it goes late, we'll just start. We'll start Lori Vallow late because we love to get our blooping time in for all the bloop-worthy portions of this trial. So we'll be on it a little before 9 a.m. tomorrow to cover the Reed hearings. I blooped back.
And after these interviews were complete, who decided to send us home?
Well, I decided to drive you guys back to the house.
And who gave you authorization to release us, I guess?
Me?
You didn't have to talk to a superior for that?
No.
And what about Alex? Who released him?
That would be Detective Moffat was involved in his interview. I was not.
So did you and Detective Moffat have a discussion on what to do next after our interviews were complete?
Briefly, that we were done with the interviews and that at this point, whether or not to get you back to the house and how we were going to facilitate that.
She's walking a line here with what the judge said about don't ask anybody about who was, why someone wasn't charged, when they were charged, but he doesn't seem to be reacting at all. So, I guess he's got no issue with it. But, she's like, did you release, Alex? And, so she knows that she's walking that line and what she's conveying to the jury. And I think she's actually doing a good job of letting the jury know, hey, do you hear that? We were released. And Tracy just asked me if ads should be off. And I think that, yes, Bob wants them off during the lives. So Mandy or Tracy, if you can turn them off, that'd be great. And then let's obviously make sure they're back on from yesterday. All right. I think I blooped back, but I'll bloop back again.
Briefly, that we were done with the interviews and that at this point, whether or not to get you back to the house and how we were going to facilitate that.
Okay, but it was decided at that time that we would be brought back together and taken in the van to back to the house and dropped off?
It was the easiest way to get the 3 of you back at the same time.
Are you aware of the press release that was issued by Chandler Police Department later that day?
Ooh.
I am not.
You never read it?
No.
You never heard about it in the course of your investigation?
The press release?
Yeah.
No.
You never discussed it with any of the other detectives?
I'm going to check. She's asked and answered.
Sustain.
Now I'm going to assume, and I'll look it up here, but I'm assuming that press release said it was self-defense or something. I'll let you guys know.
Would the case agent have to be the one who would authorize that at the time?
It depends. As a case agent, we would like to have input or influence on what a press release is or states, but occasionally they're published by our PIO, our press information officer.
So do you know if Detective Moffat was the case agent at the time, is that correct?
He was.
And so do you know if he talked to the PIO and put that out or if he didn't know?
Objection, speculation.
Sustain.
Do you know if the PIO agent just put it out?
Objection, she doesn't know about this.
Do you know?
I have no idea.
Detective Inkland, yesterday, the prosecutor asked you several times, why didn't Lori just give the phone back? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you learn in your investigation that the entire altercation only lasted a few minutes?
All right, guys. So here's what we've got. We've got the Chandler. Am I wrong? Did she say Chandler? Or did she say Gilbert? Because I see something by the the Gilbert Police Department on July 11th, 2019, around 8:30. Chandler police were summoned to the 5500 block of South Four Peaks Place for the report of a shooting. When officers arrived, they discovered 62-year-old Charles Vallow, unresponsive and with 2 gunshot wounds to his chest. Vallow, a resident of Texas, was pronounced dead on scene. Investigators learned Vallow arrived at the scene to pick up his son. Vallow's estranged wife resides at Four Peaks residence with their son and daughter. While at home, Vallow and his wife engaged in an argument. Vallow's brother-in-law was also in the residence. Fearing the argument would elevate to a physical altercation between Vallow and his estranged wife, Vallow's brother-in-law intervened on behalf of his sister. Soon, Vallow and his brother-in-law were in a physical fight. At one point during the fight, Vallow struck his brother-in-law in the head with a baseball bat. Soon after, Vallow was shot by his brother-in-law. After he shot Vallow, the brother-in-law called 911 and performed CPR on Vallow until emergency medical personnel arrived on scene. Vallow's estranged wife and brother-in-law were transported to the Chandler Police Department for questioning. The two were released with no arrests and no charges filed at this time. When completed, this case will be sent to Maricopa County Attorney's Office for review. Not sure if the judge knows that that's what the press release said. That's what she was getting at. And I don't know that she'll have another opportunity to get at that. And then that's it. I was trying to see if there was anything from Maricopa County, but there's not. So there you have that. Oh, cupcakes have arrived. Yay! Mandy, where's that clapping sound? You're quicker on the dial than me. Let's see if I can find it. Or there's a cheer. Got something for you guys. I got to get quicker on the. Here we go. Cupcake invasion. All right. All right. So we are picking up with Lori's cross of the officer at the Chandler Police Department. I just read the press release that Lori mentioned in her questioning here. Didn't really get her anywhere because this witness doesn't know about it. So I'm going to bloop back just to make sure. And
That the entire altercation only lasted a few minutes? Did you learn in your investigation that the entire altercation only lasted a few minutes?
That'd be a fair assessment.
Because we discussed that in our interview, is that correct?
stop.
We did.
That now she just changed it.
So from the time Tyler came out with
Nobody
a bat and I ran outside is maybe less than 2 minutes. We discussed that. Is that correct?
We discussed that it probably happened in a short amount of time. I don't think we gave a specific time amount to what happened, but that it happened in a relatively short amount of time.
We didn't say that was like 1 to 2 minutes. Like,
That was our discussion, yes.
yeah, that was our discussion. Okay. So we would not have been arguing for a very long time. Is that correct?
I think it's relative as to how long you've been arguing or how long the altercation took.
Detective, in the course of your investigation, did you learn that JJ was outside in the car?
I did.
Did you learn that the car was still running?
I don't know.
Did you learn that JJ was in fact in the front seat?
I know that you had articulated he was put into the car, but I don't remember if you specifically said the front seat, but he was in the car.
Did you learn in the course of your investigation that JJ had autism?
Yes, you told me about that.
Did you verify that at his school?
I did speak with his school, yes.
When did you speak with the school?
During the course of the investigation, I had contact with the school in reference to when he attended and generally kind of the services the school provides.
Do you remember who you spoke to at the school at all?
The director of the school, and then subsequently, there were a couple teachers that provided some information.
And how long after July 11th was that first communication with the school?
It was just several months later.
But during the course of this investigation, the Chandler Police Department did verify, I guess, that next day that that was in fact his school and he did attend there. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, all of the state's witnesses had to be told that they cannot mention the fate of the children in court. And I'm sure at this point, the prosecution does not want anything to cause a mistrial. And I'm going to give another round of applause for our cupcake invasion. So yeah, and if Lori opens that door by pushing the envelope too far with how long it took their investigation, and like she just asked there, well, how long was it until you went to talk to the school? So it's sort of like implying there was this time delay, and if she pushes it too far, the prosecutor could be I thought there was a couple times the prosecutors could have said, Your Honor, she has raised the issue of the time gap or the time lapse or how long it took the police to do things. And I think that it's only fair at this point that we be allowed to tell the jury, about what transpired after this that caused us to start re-investigating this case and re-evaluating this case just because it's so prejudicial, it would really have to be, she'd really have to push it. And, I guess the prosecutor doesn't think she's gone too far at this point, but she could have with that, if she would have gotten this witness to respond that she knew about the press release and sort of tried to get that in, because that's exactly what the judge doesn't want in.
I guess that next day that was in fact his school and he did attend there. The Chandler Police Department did verify, I guess, that next day that was in fact his school and he did attend there. Is that correct?
I believe so.
During this investigation, did you verify that we did in fact go through Burger King?
I did not, but it was verified.
Were you aware of what we ordered at Burger King?
You told me it was chicken fries and Sprite.
Wait, not a milkshake?
Had you seen, you hadn't seen that receipt?
I had not.
Okay.
Guys, there was no milkshake.
I guess that was in fact in the portion of one of the interviews that we watched yesterday. Is that correct?
Where was?
Correct. You told me that in the interview.
So were you aware that we also ordered 2 bottles of water?
I was not aware, no.
What about a milkshake?
And in your experience with people in stressful situations, when adrenaline kicks in, does it make you incredibly thirsty?
I don't object to speculation or knowledge.
If she knows.
If she knows, she can answer.
It can.
And when you're in fight or flight mode, does your adrenaline kick in your experience?
I'm going to object here to knowledge and foundation as to our knowledge of this.
I'll sustain the objection.
Did you offer Tylee and I apple juice at the Chandler Police Station?
I think
So just to note, I don't see how adrenaline kicking in, assuming that she was conspiring to unalive Charles and it was put in, and it was happening. I mean, that's actually more adrenaline than shock is. I don't know. But, just Lori's questioning is, it is what it is, I guess. All right. We have given 2 round of applause for all you cupcakes. We are happy to have you. And we are thankful to my girl Melanie for sending you. And if you haven't watched any of the Lori Vallow coverage thus far, her first trial, Defense Diaries did do a podcast series, and that's a straight podcast series called No Strings, or wait, no, sorry, Strings Attached. It was a picture of Lori as a puppeteer. So that's where the name came from. And we covered the whole trial, gave a lot of background. So if you're wanting to know more about this case, I highly suggest Defense Diaries podcast coverage of that. Sorry.
Did you offer Tylee and I apple juice at the Chandler Police Station?
Because we were,
I think I
Adrenaline?
offered you something to drink and what we typically would have there.
Did you offer that for the purpose that adrenaline makes you thirsty?
No, I usually do it to people I interview if they'd like something to drink while they're there.
Detective England, have you ever seen me not calm?
I don't object to maybe foundation as to when.
ever.
All right, sustain, lay more foundation on when she has, what occasions she has had to observe you.
Well, yesterday, you spoke often of my calm demeanor, my nonchalantness. Is that correct?
Correct.
So has there ever been an occasion when you have seen me when I was not calm?
Again,
Lori.
foundation as to.
Come on, Lori. You got to at least know what lay foundation means. The judge just said to you, lay foundation as to the occasions that she saw you. So you saw me on multiple occasions on the 11th. You saw me at the scene. You saw me standing on the street. You saw me in the car. You saw me at the during the interview, and you saw me on the drive back. And if there was any other day, you've seen me here in this courtroom. Have you ever seen me not calm? That's the foundation that the judge is looking for at this point in time. And I would think that Lori, deciding to act as her own counsel, would at least know what the word foundation means, or to follow, cues given to her by the judge.
Been an occasion when you have seen me when I was not calm?
Again, foundation as to when she has seen her on July 11th.
Please clarify the time frame you're referring to where she had an opportunity to observe you.
Any other time, Your Honor?
For example, how many hours on July?
Can we have a sidebar? Can I ask you a question?
Did the judge just sigh? All right, we've got some blooping time, so let's bloop. But you know what? I had to turn off the camera for my father-in-law, and I missed this, so I'm just going to hear
Have
what
a
they're doing.
sidebar? Can I get?
On July 11th.
Please
Again, foundation as to when she has seen her.
to observe you.
Any other time, Your Honor?
For example, how many hours on July?
Can we have a sidebar? Can I ask you a question?
Yes, for a sidebar about Lord. So the judge is probably saying, I can't teach you how to lay foundation. You better go talk to your advisory council.
Detective England, did you discover in your investigation that I had run outside without shoes?
So she just abandoned it altogether? All right.
Yes, kind of.
And
Kind
did
of.
you learn in that investigation that we had stopped at Walgreens and I did purchase 2 pairs of flip-flops?
Yeah, you told me that.
Well, you guys
And
have
that was
receipts.
verified later?
It was by a different detective.
Okay.
Right.
You didn't verify that at Walgreens or at Burger King, is that correct?
I did not. That was a different detective.
Okay. And as part of your investigation, did you view the video of me going into the Walgreens to purchase the flip-flops?
I did not.
Okay. And how hot was it that day on July 11th, 2019?
Warm.
Like in the hundreds?
July in Arizona. I'd say it was probably warm.
Would it have been difficult to walk JJ to his class on the cement with no shoes on, do you think?
Objection, relevance, speculation.
Sustained. I think the jury can draw their own conclusions about the temperature in Arizona in mid-July.
Detective, did you learn in your investigation that after taking JJ to his classroom that Tylee and I headed straight back to the house
I believe so.
and that we met with police? Is that correct?
Correct, you
As soon as we
contacted
drove up, first contact was with,
Officer Krautheim.
yes, Krautheim. Okay, thank you. Detective, is it your understanding that we fully cooperated with the police?
You were cooperative with interviews with me.
That we did as we were instructed?
You, with me in your interview, you were cooperative.
And Tylee was cooperative with you as well, correct?
I believe so.
And that you had said yesterday that we were voluntarily interviewed by the police, is that correct?
Correct, you were not in custody.
Did we know that?
I believe so.
When we were placed in those interview rooms, did we know that we could just walk out and leave anytime?
You-
Was that explained to us, is my question.
You can ask that.
Can you say it again?
Was it explained to us at any time that we could just walk out of those interview rooms and leave if we had wanted to?
No.
Did I in fact ask you at one point if I could go to the ladies' room?
I believe so.
Again, so this is just goes to show you how Lori representing herself, and as Free Radical said, this is what happens when a malignant sociopath decides to represent themselves, that she keeps highlighting that they weren't free to leave, that she didn't go there voluntarily, that they, got her there, and that doesn't help her. It's much better to portray yourself as you went there voluntarily, you stayed voluntarily, you did all of this because you weren't at all concerned about looking guilty because you did nothing wrong and you were happy to be there. But, she wants to focus on something that doesn't matter. Even if they did have her there against her will, that doesn't help her at trial. And it's contrary to what she would want to portray. Looping back 5 seconds.
I could go to the ladies' room?
I believe so.
Detective, did we answer all the questions asked to us by the police that day?
By me, yes, I believe so.
And we were dropped off at home by the police, is that correct?
Correct, I drove you back to the house.
And we were given no further instructions, is that correct?
Just that we would be in touch with you at the conclusion of the search warrant.
If Lori opens up the door or does something wrong that allows information in about what happened to the kids or or anything else for that matter, no, she can't ask for a mistrial. I am certain that this information about and specifically about like the kids or stuff that's been excluded, that the prosecutor is not going to let it in without first asking. Now we thought, maybe the way Lori might ask questions of Kay, that's JJ's biological grandmother, or some of the other civilian witnesses, that might sort of open the door and just lead to a natural response that let some of that in. And there was a little bit of that with Kay. Kay got a couple of digs in during her testimony, but didn't overstep to the level of a mistrial. But it's going to end up being like the judge ruling, like, okay, now you have opened the door, and there can't be a mistrial for that. She cannot have any argument, appellate issue, nothing. If she does something wrong that, opens the door or gets information in that otherwise would have been out, she's forewarned. And since she is the smartest god in the courtroom, she wants to represent herself.
In touch with you at the conclusion of the search warrant.
Is it also correct that we voluntarily handed over Charles' phone to you when you asked for it?
Yes.
Did we delay in that or just do it immediately?
No, you gave it to me when I asked.
Was there any time, Detective, on July 11th, 2019, that we did not comply or cooperate fully with the police in their investigation?
Sounds like she's wrapped.
In my interaction with you, you were cooperative.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Redirect?
See how much wait time the prosecutor wastes redirecting, because she made no points. She scored 0 points. Lori.
I'm going to start with when you first arrived on scene. You were asked a lot yesterday when you first noticed the defendant. Were you standing there at the house just waiting and watching to see what cars would arrive?
No.
By the way, guys, I do have this on 1.25. So if there's anyone like this is going too fast for me, just let me know and I'll slow it down.
So when you first noticed the defendant you just happened to glance over and see another officer speaking with her.
Correct.
Who cares?
You were asked a lot about her demeanor that day, both when you first interacted with her, taking her over to the van, correct?
Correct.
Did Lori Vallow's behavior stand out to you?
It did.
Why?
So based on what was going on, that we had a homicide, her husband had been shot and killed, her brother was the one who shot and killed her husband. It was inside her home. Her children were at least partially present to this event. Her demeanor seemed odd given what was going on at the house that day.
So throughout this time, you're just noting her demeanor, right?
Correct.
You were asked about whether or not you were calm at the scene. Do you recall being asked that on cross?
I believe so.
Had you just seen your husband get shot
No,
inside your own home
no,
by your brother?
no,
You were asked if the other officers at the scene were calm. You recall being asked that?
I do.
Were you aware of any of them having just seen their significant others being shot
No,
by a family member
no,
inside their own home
no,
with their children present?
no.
So would it be difficult to compare the demeanor of the officers and yourself with that of, say, Alex or Tylee or the defendant?
It would be difficult comparison.
Not the same situation.
No,
You were asked a lot about Tylee's demeanor as well. Did you ever see her appearing to be panicked,
no,
overwhelmed with emotions?
no,
Was there anything about her demeanor or your interactions with her that made you feel she needed any type of medical treatment or medication or anything?
no.
The death notification that you attempted to make, I'll say. So to understand this, we're both Lori Vallow and Tylee inside the van.
They were inside the CR 288 van.
Can you describe for us what this van looks like? Is it like a minivan? What is it?
No, it's a larger, like 10 or 12 passenger vans, big, full size. So the doors open from the side to get into, I think there's like 3 rows of seating. And they use the van to bring services out, but also to transport people. They have car seats and things like that.
So when you went up to the van, you opened the door?
Correct, the side door to open to get into the rear portion of the van.
And you were with your sergeant at the time?
Correct.
And you asked if Lori would come out with you?
I was trying to get her to come out of the van to talk to her outside of Tylee's presence.
Why did you want to do that?
I felt it was more appropriate if I was about to tell somebody that a family member died to deliver it to her. And then typically what we'll try to do is kind of formulate a plan as to how we're going to tell children as to what happened.
But before that, did Lori Vallow tell you something?
She did.
What did she tell you?
She said that she already knew because she was there.
And this was not what you were expecting to hear.
It was not.
You were expecting that she had no idea,
Correct.
that she rolled back up to this house and sees her brother out there but doesn't know what's going on.
Correct.
After you learned that she was there, did you now feel like you wanted to ask her what happened?
Correct. We wanted to, at that point,
I love it. How'd you get over
Wow.
there, babe?
I don't know. I didn't do it.
All right, let's see
Leg.
what we can fix here.
I was Y clan. Is that how you
I'm gonna
pronounce
try
it?
to read. Hey, say hi to all the cupcakes we have here.
Oh, what's up, cupcakes? So we got big news. They've impaneled the jury.
Yep,
Trial starts Tuesday.
yep.
That's really good news. We love nothing more than a
There's
cupcake.
a hearing tomorrow that we're gonna cover at 10 a.m.
Okay.
So there's that. And then, Kathleen, thank you for your generosity. I do think the prosecutors need to redirect on all of the points that are pointless. Does give some credibility to Lori's cross-examination. I don't know why she does it. It would be it would, I think, send a much stronger message if she just said no redirect. Like, but everything she would be like everything that she just said was bullshit. I don't even have to ask. By the way, I do have court Tuesday in person,
Ooh,
so I'll be I'll be
like
late.
how long? Big
It-
court day?
I think so.
Like a long court day?
It is a
Hey, what's
pretrial
up, y'all?
conference and a possible hearing. So yeah.
Are you sure? Are you?
Wow, you're gonna be missing openings.
Um,
I won't be though. So I'm ready for it. I am ready for that trial to start. And that's great because that may alleviate our issues with this trial. So
right. And I said, obviously, we'll just start this trial late whenever the motions end for Reed because we love to have blooping time, which we still actually have plenty of time right now, which will probably end up not even using. Well, maybe they
no,
call.
I was actually I see Mandy's trying to give me some shots, poke me. She's trying to poke the bear a little bit. No, I was actually setting up that live for tonight, Mandela. I'm excited about it. We have Dr. Dawn Perlmutter, who, if you know anything about the Richard Allen case at all, she was going to be the symbolism ritual expert who was going to be called to trial. Obviously, the third party culprit defense was barred by Judge Gull. She did testify during the 3 days of hearings back in July, beginning of August. I found her testimony at that hearing to be fascinating. I think that you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot. If you've listened to other creators that are on the guilt side there, they really tried to trash her. I think you're going to find her to be a very learned woman who knows quite a bit about the field. And I thought that her testimony, like I said, was fascinating. So I think it'll be a very interesting show, and I'm really looking forward to that. And it's at 8 p.m. tonight, and I hope that you guys will join us. So make sure you set your notifications. And by the way, I've set this up to jump right over there. You're going to portal over there. This will be done before that. Hopefully this gets done earlier so I can continue prepping for that interview tonight. So that's it. That's all my announcements. Sorry to interrupt in the middle of trial, y'all. Let's get back to it.
All right. I'll bloop back one.
Feel like you wanted to ask her what happened?
Correct. We wanted to, at that point, transition to not just like a death notification and contacting her, but now we're potentially looking at doing witness interviews.
Did you advise her that you wanted to take her to the station to interview her?
I did.
Did you advise her you wanted to interview
All right, just not the point of redirect to just ask the same exact questions you asked on direct.
her daughter?
I did.
And did you in fact ask her to come with you in a different vehicle?
I did.
She agreed to do that?
She did.
Now, how old was Tylee?
16 or 17?
And she was put in a separate room than her mom. Why?
So when you're going to do witness interviews or any interviews, you want to do the interviews separately. You don't want to interview people together. Obviously, even best case scenario, there's going to be some influence. So you want a good recount or statement from somebody that's their own statement.
Oh, what's that, Bob? You want to put witnesses in separate rooms? No, unheard of.
That's outrageous.
You don't want to have witnesses together when you ask them questions. What is she talking about? They can influence each other? I've never thought of such a thing.
That would never happen.
Yeah, and for those of you new to following this, we often like to joke about all the things that they did in this trial, such as separating witnesses and making a chain of custody and things like that they didn't do in the Karen Reed trial.
Yeah.
So I as much as I want to put this up to 1.5, I don't want it to be too fast for everyone, so I'll leave it at 1.25, but I'm so done with this.
It's what they saw, heard, felt, not influenced by anybody else in the room or participating in like a group interview.
Were you aware when you were conducting this interview with Lori and with Tylee of the amount of time that had occurred from when she had left the house to when 911 was called to when she was eventually interviewed?
Generally, not specific, but I knew the general time.
Initially at the scene, was there a misunderstanding? Well, let me ask you. When you arrived at the scene that morning, did you understand that when the 911 call came in is when the shooting occurred?
I think that was believed or assumed at the time we got to the scene.
Okay. And was that still your mindset when you were interviewing initially Lori Vallow?
Correct.
So when you started to interview her, you assumed that when that 911 call came in, the shooting had occurred just prior to that?
Correct.
So I just want to note here, and for those of you that were not here, including you, Bob, the prosecutor could, although Lori might not pick up on it, open the door for that press release to come in. And now the press release that I'm speaking of, for those of you that don't know, I'll just read the quick portion here that they said that while that they talk about how Charles showed up while at the home. They engaged in an argument. The brother-in-law was there, feeling the argument would escalate. He stepped in. Soon there was a physical fight. At one point, the Vallow struck the brother-in-law in the head with a baseball bat. Soon after Vallow was shot by his brother-in-law, after he shot Vallow, the brother-in-law called 911 and performed CPR on Vallow until emergency medical personnel arrived on scene. And then they go on to say that everyone was transported for interviews. They were released, no charges, no arrests at this time. Lori did try to get into that with this witness. As I said then, I'm not sure the judge knew that that's what the press release said. But this witness had no knowledge of the press release, so she got nowhere with that line of questioning. I'm going to loop back just 5 seconds.
When you were driving Lori back to the police station, to FAC for interviews, you again told us about her demeanor. Did that again stick out to you as unusual?
It did.
Why was that?
Again, this incident has unfolded and we're driving and she's just kind of chattering in the car, and given what was going on in the situation and how she was acting, it was just odd to me.
That is the perfect description of
You
Lori
were asked
Vallow.
about, just on cross, whether or not
Yeah, a description she gave already on her direct. So,
you were asked
Dave, I take it that you think that this is duplicative.
yeah, and she does
Redundancy.
She does it every single time. And I don't know, at this point, I'm thinking, is she trying to drag this out because she doesn't have witnesses lined up because she thought this was going to take longer? I mean,
Interesting.
know.
And that happens. That will definitely happen with the state, sometimes the defense. If we do not have witnesses lined up, you may try to stretch out an examination in order to buy yourself some time, because nothing irritates a judge more than having to go up to that judge and say, "Oh, judge, sorry, we don't have another witness lined up," and because that irritates the judge, because that irritates the jury. So
Yes, but to Mama's point, she has done this with every single witness, probably long before she would have known she needed to drag out some time. So,
yeah, and the other thing that's really annoying about what she does is that I think Allie, you'll agree with me that when she does these redirects, which are bringing nothing to the table that's new and aren't really addressing the actual cross-examination, it seems like she's giving air to Lori's cross-examination as if something damaging actually occurred. I mean, typically what you see in a direct or then a redirect is that they're trying to mitigate some type of damage that they feel the defense may have done during its cross.
And we touched on that with Kathleen's poignant comment. Do you think the prosecutor needs to redirect after every cross? Seems to give credibility to Lori's questions, in my opinion.
Hard no.
And thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. I'll just bloop back 5 seconds.
You were asked about, just on cross, whether or not you gave the defendant a specific time when she could come back to the house. Do you recall that?
I believe so.
Did you have any concept of when Detective Coons or Duncan would be finished executing that search warrant on the house?
No, and that's not an assumption we would do.
So you don't have, they don't tell you a timeline like, hey, detective, we'll be done by 3 so they can come in.
No, because
She
in processing
no.
a scene, you just don't know. So you wouldn't want to give that kind of time constraint when processing a scene, you're going to go through and very slowly and methodically collect and photograph and process. You're not going to limit a time. We typically try to give them an idea, maybe most of the night, several hours, but I wouldn't tell them a specific time to come back.
And your interactions with Lori, you hadn't even been in the house yet, right?
I had not.
So you have no concept of what the scene's going to be like
Correct.
or how long it might take.
Correct.
Real poignant. So important.
When you were interviewing the defendant, is it normal for you to offer drinks to people when they're being interviewed?
Absolutely.
Normal for you to allow them to use the restroom?
Yes,
And you did that here just like you normally would?
I did.
Nothing different or unusual in that?
No.
Detective, when you
Mm.
were interviewing the defendant on July 11th, did the defendant tell you that she and Charles argued about the phone prior to Tylee ever becoming involved?
Correct.
Did she tell you that she had initially obtained Charles's phone, and when he asked for it back, she said no?
Correct.
This is before Tylee's there.
That's right.
Does she tell you that she then, in fact, confronts Charles about who he's texting?
Correct.
And that's again before Charles is out there,
Before Tylee was there.
before Tylee is there. And she advised you that she still wouldn't give him back his phone, even though he demanded it then.
Correct.
Did she tell you that she was walking away with Charles's phone prior to Tylee coming out while he is still demanding his phone back?
Correct.
So there were multiple occasions that she told you about prior to any bat or gun being involved that she could have just handed the phone back over,
That's correct.
and she did not.
That's correct.
In terms of your interview with the defendant, did you understand all the facts of the case when you interviewed the defendant?
No.
You told us you didn't understand the timeline yet in terms of when the shooting occurred versus when the 911 call occurred, right?
Correct.
So you were unaware of that 47-minute lapse in time.
Correct.
If you had known that, would you have asked about that?
I would have asked about that. Yes.
All right. So here's the problem with all of this. She said everything. They knew when he arrived. They knew how quickly after, because she talked about that it was like 7. She was supposed to be there at 7:30. He arrived at 7:40. He's usually very timely. So blah, 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 blah. Then he wasn't going to sit there for like, I didn't want him in my house for 20 minutes because the doors don't even open at the school until, I don't know if she said 8 or 8:15, one or the other. So I suggested that they go to Burger King and get their soda, the Sprite and chicken. So they knew everything
What
then.
about a Whopper Junior?
They knew everything then. So, I just don't know about these questions. And again, I don't know exactly what time this this press release was released. It was the same day. I'm sorry, July 11th, 2019. I typed June 11th, so disregard. That should say July.
Wow.
Um,
So
sorry.
much for just facts.
I know, right? There's
Just facts,
not
kind
like
of.
an edit thing. Just taking it down.
There you go.
The press release was the same day. Um, and again, maybe a lawyer would try to argue that this opened the door to getting
Hey,
that.
there's our Laura Rikers here, our in court observer who's been sending me all kinds of tasty tidbits
I
about
thought you
that.
were going to talk to see if she wanted to come on and
Well, I
talk.
think she's actually in court again, so
Oh yeah,
she's probably on a break right now. I don't know that they get to use their phones
no.
like that during court. She might sneak a DM in here and there. But thanks for all the intel, Laura.
Yes,
love it.
thank you. All right, so I blooped back 10.
When the 911 call occurred, right?
Correct.
So you were unaware of that 47-minute lapse in time.
Correct.
If you had known that, would you have asked about that?
I would have asked about that, yes.
When you were interviewing the defendant, you were unaware that she had Charles's phone, correct?
Correct.
If you had known that, would you have
Objection calls for speculation.
asked about that?
I would have asked about that, yes.
When the defendant was talking to you at one point, she told you that she knew her brother was texting with, or that Charles was texting with her brother Adam. Do you recall that?
Yes, she told me that.
Understanding now that she had Charles's phone, would you have asked her how she learned about that?
I would have asked her about that.
Well, but why didn't you ask her? Not knowing she didn't have the phone left you kind of to wonder, well, how did you know about that? If you know she's got the phone, then I guess you kind of know how she found out about that.
Hey, before you started up, Polly Claire asked the question that I wanted to ask right when I came in. Have they put any evidence of the conspiracy on yet?
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
Okay.
So I blooped back. So let's go. Whoops.
Understanding now that she had Charles's phone, would you have asked her how she learned about that?
I would have asked her about that, yes.
So when you're doing an interview with her at 9 or 10 in the morning, you didn't know that she'd had time to look into Charles's phone?
Correct.
You learned later that she had the password to get into his phone, right?
Correct.
So when she's telling you things, you're unaware that she has already potentially had the ability to access those.
That's true.
And what she's telling you in her interview contained information about the interaction between her brother Adam and Charles.
Right.
When you interviewed the defendant, were you aware of the days leading up to this, the interaction between Lori Vallow and her brother Alex?
I was not.
You weren't privy to things like iCloud accounts before you interviewed her?
No,
You weren't privy to downloaded cell phones before you interviewed her?
I was not.
You hadn't even been inside the house before you interviewed her?
Correct.
So this is a good line of questioning here. She's letting the jury know about all the things, actually putting information in about the things that she did not know going into this, and that we're going to see, I think, with the next witness or the next couple of witnesses.
I was not.
You hadn't even been inside the house before you interviewed her?
Correct.
If you had been privy to all of the information in this case, would you have interviewed her differently?
I would have.
Would you have questioned her more?
Yes.
Would you have followed up more?
Yes.
Would you have asked for her phone then?
Yes.
The charges here are conspiracy to commit murder, a plan with her brother to unalive her then estranged husband.
When you interviewed Lori Vallow, at that time, were you just going off of what she said because you didn't know the rest of the facts
Correct. It was an initial interview.
to see what she had to tell you?
Correct.
But you had nothing to do to be able to verify or validate anything she told you?
Correct.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
All right, I see we have a few jury questions. I think we're going to have the parties approach for those who are having difficulty with their headsets.
All right. So usually they use this little headset sidebar thing. They're going to approach this time. And young black economist says, I think Lori got Charles's phone from him after he was hit by Alex already. So what I always thought before we got all of this detail was that they took the phone to because he was leaving and they hadn't carried out their plot and to get him back into the house. Now, would I be making that same assessment if I didn't know all of the things that we learned afterwards that Lori did um, to her children, to her niece's husband, to Chad's wife, or any of it? I don't know. I might have very well thought he left his phone there. She said he always leaves something to come back in for. I might have bought that. I might have bought that she got an opportunity. She had been wanting to know why he was really there, what his communications were with her brothers, what he was plotting. um, so I may have thought it was just an opportunity to get her grubby little hands on his phone. But who knows what the truth is, and that might very well be the problem here, is that the jury might be left wondering if they've proven this beyond a reasonable doubt. But we really have to wait till we get to those text messages. Now I'm going to bloop past the sidebar,
Was
and here we go with the jury question.
jury, was the rent-a-car vehicle ever searched?
I do not believe so, but I'm not certain.
All right. Question form number 12. If the defendant and her daughter were interviewed as witnesses, why were they left with a victim advocate? In other words, were they considered victims or witnesses?
So our victim services section, I introduced Lori to them specifically because there are civilian employees that work within our police department that can help families with death investigations for the issues that come up afterwards and kind of navigating that process. So although they might not be classified under like state law as victims, our victim services section will often help our families with like specific crisis type events and navigating that process. So we use them quite a bit in our death investigations.
All right, on question form number 13, did Lori express concerns about police talking with Tylee at the time of the interview?
She did not.
Does law enforcement have
That's
to
helpful.
advise interviewees they are being audio and or video recorded?
They do not. There is no expectation of privacy within a police station.
All right, are there any further juror questions at this time? Not seeing any. Would the defendant like to follow up on those juror questions?
No, Your Honor.
State.
Just briefly,
Mhm.
with regard
Sometimes she's got less self-control than Lori. It's shocking.
No, Your Honor.
State.
Just briefly, with regards to introducing Lori and Tylee to your victim services, were you trying to provide whatever services might be necessary due to the fact that her husband had been killed?
Correct.
And what you assumed at that point was Tylee's dad or stepdad had been killed?
Correct.
And he was.
And again, this is all prior to you learning more about this case?
Correct.
No other questions, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down. The state can call its next witness.
Hopefully it's somebody who has some evidence of a conspiracy.
Sworn in. Up here to my left.
I rewound just to make sure I didn't miss his name, but she hadn't already asked that.
Thanks, Melissa. Again.
Looping.
Time, Your Honor, just so I can get this.
Please. Jury, go to the jury. Should we just do that now?
This might be a good time, Your Honor, just so I can get this set up and hooked
All right,
to.
when we have the jury,
All right, they're having some technical issues.
how many times the witness had observed her in the 2 a.m. At that sidebar, the
Okay, so just in case anyone doesn't recall or wasn't here, during the cross-examination by Lori of the Chandler officer that was just on the stand, she was trying to ask about if she stayed calm the whole time, and the judge told her she had to lay foundation, and then they did, like, this really long sidebar, and Lori came back and asked no questions. So the judge is gonna now put on the record what happened at that sidebar.
The defendant indicated she wanted to question the witness further regarding how many times the witness had observed her and her demeanor, which would necessitate the witness talking about observing her here in this trial, observing her on July 11th of 2019, as well as the trial in Idaho
Aha.
and possible viewing of interviews or social media
That answers that.
posts. I advised the defendant that this is probably not a door she wants to open because the setting of those interviews would be relevant. For example, someone appearing in court intuitively might behave better than someone who's not appearing in court or in a trial. And the defendant said she would move on from that area. Is that an accurate recitation of the sidebar from the state's perspective
Yes, Your Honor.
and the defendant's perspective?
Yes, Your Honor, that's fine.
All right, and then we did another sidebar regarding jury questions at 11:01 a.m. The first question, juror question number 10, as a detective, does your subconscious mind use a witness demeanor as any type of evidence? The parties agreed with me that that's probably not an appropriate question to ask, so it was not asked. Juror form question number 11 was asked. That was the question asked to whether the rental car was ever searched. Juror question 12 was also asked I should mention, by agreement of the parties. And this was the question if the defendant and her daughter were interviewed as witnesses, and the explanation between being interviewed or considered a victim versus a witness, which the witness answered. Question form 13 had 4 questions on it. The first question was not asked. Did Lori ever ask for an attorney during interviews of her and Ty Lee? The second question, did Lori express concerns about police talking with Ty Lee at the time of the interview? Neither side objected to that question.
So I think here with that first question, the juror was trying to focus on sort of what I was saying before. Instead of Lori focusing on that fact that she didn't want to be there, focus on the fact that you did want to be there. You were happy to cooperate. So she's like, did she ask for a lawyer at any time? So I don't know. In my mind, that's thinking she wasn't suspicious. She didn't ask for a lawyer, but it could have been Lori's questioning, like, you know, you made us come there, and maybe she was looking for the officer did something wrong by not giving her a lawyer when she asked for one. But it seems that to me that she was more, especially given the next question about did she allow the interview of Ty Lee, um, that she was looking to see how cooperative Lori was.
What was asked. Question number 3 on form 13, do police need parental consent to speak with a minor even if being treated as a witness? Which the answer really is, it depends, but it calls for a legal conclusion too for that witness. The state objected to it. The defendant did not. I didn't think it would be helpful with the jury in deciding any issue that's at fact in this case.
Right. And then with that question, it does seem that the witness was the juror was focusing on possible inappropriate behavior of the police, like not asking for the mom for consent. And it also shows that they picked up on these questions of Lori's that were irrelevant and that I'm saying made her look less cooperative by making it seem like the cops didn't really even give her the option, things like that. As is the case with the next question about do you have to tell them that you video and audioed?
So it was not asked with the jury in deciding any issue that's at fact in this case. So it was not asked. And then the fourth question on that form number 13, does law enforcement have to advise interviewees they are being audio and video recorded? Neither side objected to that, and that question was asked. Is that an accurate representation of the sidebar we had at 11:01?
Yes, Your Honor.
Zoom noon or maybe a few minutes out. All right, we'll be
All right, we've got blooping time right past this, so here we go.
Different areas you have worked and where you currently work, police department.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hello, my name is Ariel Werther, and I work for the Chandler Police Department as a detective.
How long have you worked for the Chandler Police Department?
I've worked for Chandler Police Department
Where you currently work?
and then moving to Chandler in the cops route of the academy on the 20.
When you were with the Special Victims Unit, did you ever work with the robbery homicide unit?
I did, in fact, from fairly early on, in detectives, and they all text opening. So
Can you talk to us? Have you ever had any type of training?
So I'm going to bloop until he starts to talk about this specific case.
yes, I've had extensive training, much of it more recently.
GPS data.
All right. So we're
Yes,
gonna
I've
get
had extensive
whereabouts.
training. Much I was aware of was in the was in 20.
On cell phones.
I have.
And we're going to get some cell phones.
In July of 2019,
Here we go.
were you still in the special victims unit?
Yes, I was.
And did you become involved in a shooting that occurred on July 11th of 2019 at 5531 South Four Peaks Avenue in Chandler?
I did.
How did you get involved in that?
I believe I was downstairs where we all work in a similar area and became aware that a shooting had occurred, that it appeared that one person was deceased, and I volunteered to come along. My capacity was more to shadow, to learn about how these investigations are conducted with the aim of testing. That's something that's best practice to do if you want to test for a unit. You ought to go out and see how the job is done.
So when you initially, did you go out to the scene?
I did.
And when you initially out there, who did you shadow at first?
Initially, I was at the scene with Detective Coons. I was present during the scene investigation, though again, as someone who was observing, I didn't personally impound anything or directly conduct the scene investigation myself.
Okay. At some point, as you are shadowing these, were you given different requests to help the detectives who are working this case?
Yes, although I'd say the extent to which I started going out and doing things, assigned tasks, really began the day after, on Friday the 12th.
So on Friday, July 12th, 2019, did you become aware that no one had obtained contact information for J.J. Vallow?
That's right.
And did you offer to reach out to Lori Vallow to get that information?
I did.
Why did you need that information?
To have a complete and thorough police report, it's best practice to have proper documentation, name, date of birth, basic demographic information for all the people who are involved in a case, however they might be involved. Given the information we had at that time, he's someone who ought to be listed in the report.
Okay. Was he also known to be the son of the deceased victim?
Yes, that's right.
On the 11th, had you had any contact with Lori Vallow?
I did not have any contact on the 11th.
Okay. On July 12th, after you offered to get that contact information, did you make contact with Lori Vallow?
I did.
Did you see her or call her?
I called her first.
And was that call recorded?
That call was audio recorded, yes.
When you spoke with Ms. Vallow, did you obtain the contact information for J.J. Vallow?
Yes.
Did you learn from her where J.J. went to school?
Yes.
Did you confirm that she had gone to Burger King before taking J.J. to his school?
Yes.
Did you at some point during that conversation with Ms. Vallow learn that Charles Vallow was staying at?
So if she follows suit from yesterday, she's going to ask him all these questions, and then she's going to play the video that asks all these questions without objection. If we see that happening, I'm going to start blipping right to the video.
Did you at some point during that conversation with Ms. Vallow learn that Charles Vallow was staying at the True Hilton Hotel?
Yes.
Prior to this, had you known that where he was staying?
I don't think I had any information either way.
Okay. So as someone who was separate, did you have any idea where Charles was, whether he was staying at the house or elsewhere prior to this?
I didn't have that information, no.
So you just learned this during your conversation when you're trying to get JJ's information?
Correct.
Did Ms. Vallow advise you that she was in possession of Charles Vallow's hotel room key?
She did.
Did she advise where she had found that?
In his wallet, I believe.
So you learned that she had Charles Vallow's wallet
That's what she said.
and that she then had a room key for him to True Hilton Hotel.
Correct.
Did you advise her that you would talk to the case agent and let her know who would?
All right, somebody tell me what the objection is here. Oh, sorry. Bubsy already did it. Oh no, I thought it said leading, but she is. She had his wallet because she had his rental car and all his stuff was in his rental car. But this is just like talk about her testifying and just asking leading questions and but there's no objection. So that's what happens when she represents herself.
Go get that?
Yes.
Did you advise her that you would talk to the case agent and let her know who would go get that?
Yes,
After you spoke with Lori Vallow on the phone, did you offer to go out to the Burger King to see if you could obtain any video from there?
I did.
And when you are helping in this aspect of the case, were you aware at that time when the 911 call had been placed?
I was.
And when was that?
That was at 8:36 in the morning.
So you knew as you went out to Burger King that the 911 call was July 11th, 2019 at 8:36 a.m.
Yes, that's correct.
And were you aware when you went out to the Burger King of when the police had arrived at the scene?
Yes.
And was that within a few minutes around 8:41 or 8:42 a.m.?
Yes, that's about right.
And were you aware prior to going out there of when Lori Vallow had been shown or seen on body cam back at 5531 South Four Peaks?
I was.
And was that the 8:48 a.m.?
Yes, that's right.
So all of this is kind of a timeline you're considering when you're going out to Burger King.
Correct.
So when you went out there, were you aware of that? I guess when you went out to Burger King, were you also under an understanding that Lori Vallow had said she was at the house when Charles Vallow was shot?
That was my understanding, yes.
So did all of that play into when you would assume the timing of her arriving at Burger King?
It did.
So sometime after 8:36 is what you're expecting?
To some extent. I was aware that there's a little bit of a logistical difficulty in the question of how one could leave at 8:36 or at just after, and then arrive back by 8:48, knowing the distances and knowing the city of Chandler like I do. So because of that, knowing that it was clearly the case that she was there at 8:48 because she was on officer's body-worn video, then I knew that there was some chance I would find that the video was in fact prior to the 911 call, because otherwise the distances and the travel didn't seem quite right.
So you see this 12-minute time from when 911 is called to when she arrives back, and you're thinking that there's no way to go to Burger King and drop a kid off at school and get back?
But bear in mind, I mean, that coincides with what she said, but they're just putting together, the length of time. Although, like I said before, Lori pretty much gave that timeline during her discussions. So he's not learning something novel.
And you're thinking that there's no way to go to Burger King and drop a kid off at school and get back?
Correct. One of the other things that I was trying to establish when I called her is where she had taken him to school, and to confirm that we hadn't misunderstood about the Burger King event happening after the shooting. Because if we hadn't misunderstood, and then learning where the school was approximately 7 miles away from the house. So the idea that one could in 12 minutes go to a Burger King, get their order, drive 7 miles one way, 7 miles back, and arrive in that amount of time seemed very unlikely to me.
So you're now going to Burger King to try to figure out when she actually went there?
Correct.
When you are going to the Burger King, were you aware of what vehicle she was driving?
I was.
Was that, again, body cam had shown what vehicle she had come in?
That's correct.
And was that a red Kia Sorento?
That's right.
So when let me ask you this, did you
I
go
think
to a
they did
Burger
that
King
already,
over at
too.
2865 East Ocotillo Road in Chandler?
I did.
How did you know to go to that one?
I chose that one because it was the closest one, and I wanted to make that logical assumption that that's probably where someone would go first, and then see if I found evidence there that that was the correct one.
All right, so you weren't given that information, you're just trying to figure out which Burger King it was.
Correct.
Did you ask to see if they had surveillance video from the morning of July 11th?
I did.
So you're there on July 12th?
Yes.
When you look at surveillance video at a place like a Burger King, do you ever verify that the date timestamp on that video is accurate?
I do. We very commonly find that at various places, the level of accuracy to their date and timestamps can be exactly right, or they can be off by a significant margin. So the best practice, and what I did in this case, is I will ask to see their live view, and the live view typically has a timestamp, as it did in this case, and then I will use my cell phone, my work cell phone's location time, or my work cell phone's time. And if they match up, then to me that indicates that the timestamp is probably relatively reliable, particularly if I'm there just the day after the video that I'm looking for.
In this case, was the date timestamp correct for that Burger King?
Yes, that's right.
Did you then ask to watch the surveillance video from that morning of July 11th?
I did.
And as you were watching it, did you see a red SUV and a person that appeared to be Lori Vallow going through the drive-thru?
I did.
Do you recall about what time you saw that happen?
I want to say the timestamp on that is around 7:20 something,
Is it 7:54?
7:54. That is probably correct, yes.
So if you're looking at a timestamp at 7:54 and you know the 911 call is at 8:36, are you already starting to wonder what's going on here?
Yes, this was one of the concerns that led us to pursue this avenue of investigation.
And you're aware that Lori Vallow had told Detective Inclan that she had left right after Charles was shot.
That is what I was told.
So if she left right after he was shot, she somehow is already at Burger King more than 40 minutes after the shooting before the 911 call.
Correct.
Did you look at various channels from that surveillance video at Burger King?
I did.
And did you also ask to obtain a receipt from her purchase?
I did.
If I can have my paralegal approach with 217 and 218.
Shocking, Lion. It's shocking. They knew all of this.
Thank you.
We're looking at 217 and 218. Did those contain affidavits from Burger King authenticating both the recording and the receipt?
They do.
And is that from the Burger King that you went to obtain that video and that receipt?
It is.
The state will move to admit 217 and 218.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
217 and 218 are admitted.
Now, just so we know, although we have the video right there and that's been admitted, did you create a PowerPoint we're going to get to in a bit that actually includes the relevant portions of that video in it?
I did.
Okay. So ultimately, we have 7:54-ish that you see Lori Vallow going through the Burger King. Were you then ever asked to meet with Lori Vallow to get that hotel key, still on the 12th here?
Yes, that's correct.
Where did you meet with her?
I met with her at the Four Peaks house.
Okay. Do you recall meeting with her there around 2:10 in the afternoon on July 12th?
Yes, that's right.
Did she provide you with a key card to a hotel, or what looked like a key card to a hotel?
She did.
Do you see that person who gave you Charles Vallow's key card in the courtroom today?
I do.
And can you point her out and identify what she's wearing?
Yes. She's
Courtroom
sitting at the
drama
defense
time.
table wearing a black blazer.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
It shall.
Now, at this time, you had already watched the Burger King video that we've discussed. Did she appear to be the same person you saw driving that red Kia Sorento?
Yes, that's correct.
And when you went to the residence at 5531 South Four Peaks, did you see a red Kia Sorento at that residence?
I did.
And did that have Colorado license plates of BRS 084?
It did.
Did that appear to match the vehicle you also saw going through the drive-thru of that Burger King?
It did.
When you got the key card, did you then meet up with Detective Moffett to go to the hotel?
Correct.
And was that the True Hilton at 1950 South Santan Village Parkway in Gilbert?
Yes.
When you went there, were you able to verify that that's where Charles Vallow was staying?
Yes, I believe Detective Moffett spoke to them, but then we were directed to a room. To a room.
So were you present with Detective Moffett during that?
I was present, yes.
Okay. And so you were provided with a room number where he was staying?
Yes.
Well, they had 5 months before Alex was deceased that they could have arrested Alex without any conspiracy, so. All right, let's loop back.
So you were provided with a room number where he was staying?
Yes.
And were you provided, well, you had a room key already to get in there?
Correct.
Did you, while you were there or later, obtain both an affidavit and record showing?
Yeah, Lori is not allowed to put on evidence that they first decided that this was self-defense. So there's that.
There or later obtain both an affidavit and record showing that Charles Vallow had stayed at that hotel?
Yes.
If I can have my paralegal approach with 219.
Right.
The reservation.
I'm gonna
Is that 219? Sorry.
Verifying it's right. It's admitted. She's putting it up.
Okay.
Here we go.
So
Bloop, bloop, bloop.
let's pull out a little. We see this is from in Exhibit 219, the True Hilton at 1950 South Santan.
Yes,
And did this show that Charles Vallow arrived on the 10th and was supposed to leave on the 13th?
yes, that's correct.
And then were you also provided with information that this was Charles Vallow's room?
Yes, that's right.
Did you and Detective Moffett go into room 127?
We did.
And when you went in there, what was inside?
There were items that I understood to belong to Mr. Vallow. That was our primary reason for being there, was to secure them. A backpack, 2 suitcases, I believe, at least 1 laptop computer. I assisted in gathering these up and impounding them.
Okay. So all of those items were brought to the Chandler Police Department and impounded.
That's right.
Okay. After you had gone to the True Hilton Hotel, did you also learn that the defendant had told Detective Enkland that she had stopped at a Walgreens to buy some flip-flops?
Initially, I was told at CVS, whether I misunderstood or there was a miscommunication.
And I'm blooping back so you don't miss it. But with that comment that Mandy said, that based on the fact that Lori rehomed his emotional support pup, talking to Bailey, it speaks volumes. And when Charles was seen on the video talking to, we played it. I don't think it was not played in court, but we played it here for everyone on a break. And they were wondering if the dog would be inside. And Charles said, no, they would never leave the dog. The dog's a member of the family. So yeah, member of the family, rehomed.
To buy some flip-flops.
Initially, I was told at CVS, whether I misunderstood or there was a miscommunication. I initially believed it was a CVS.
So did you try to locate a CVS in the generic area that you're looking at of the Burger King and the school?
I did. I tried actually 7 different CVS locations trying to locate video and wasn't able to.
So at that point, you were unable to verify that initially.
Correct.
Were you then asked to review the GPS data that was extracted from Charles Vallow's cell phone?
I was.
Did you have anything to do with extracting the data from his cell phone?
I did not.
Can you talk to us about this GPS data that's part of this extraction? Like, do all cell phones give us GPS data?
As an end user and the person who doesn't do the extraction, depending on a particular user's settings, particularly if we're talking about smartphones, phones equipped with a GPS module and where that GPS module is working, they may record the GPS location of the device for various reasons, depending on the settings. I, for example, keep my GPS location off, so you would not expect to find very many GPS recorded locations on my device. Many people keep them on. I find it's quite common. If so, then the people in the computer forensics unit are able to extract data from the phone to include logged GPS locations, and then can produce that in a report, which as an end user, I can view the latitude, longitude that was recorded by the device for one reason or another, and the date and time that it was recorded by the device. And that gives us GPS locations to look at for where the device may have been.
So for Charles Vallow's phone, were you, through that extraction, provided with, I'll call it ongoing GPS data location for his phone on July 11th?
Yes, so there were GPS locations recorded on the device for July 11th, which was the time period of interest, and I was able to look at those.
Okay, so did you look and see if there were GPS location device information on the phone for other dates as well?
I did not do that.
You're just looking at the date of this shooting?
Correct.
And when we talk about the device, so this is telling you not who has the device, just where the device is.
That's right.
When you were looking at that GPS data from the extraction of Charles Vallow's phone, did you discover that Lori Vallow may have actually gone to a Walgreens?
I did.
Based upon looking at that information, did you find an address at 785 South Cooper Road that corresponded to a Walgreens where you saw the device at around 8:15 a.m. on July 11th?
I did.
Based upon seeing that GPS data, did you go to that Walgreens?
Yes, I initially called. I eventually went.
After going to 7 CVS, you decided to call?
I decided to call.
And
No, nothing about Tylee's interviews, nothing she said is admissible because it's hearsay, and there is a rule that if you are responsible for the unaliving of the person, you're not to profit from that. So they're not going to let Lori get in Tylee's self-serving to Lori's statements, since she's not available to testify because of Lori's actions. So, but the judge did allow, at least it was my understanding, a portion of Alex's statements, and we have not heard that yet. And I'll bloop back 5 seconds.
After going to 7 CVS, you decided to call?
I decided to call.
And when you called, did you learn that they did in fact, well, what did you do? How did they know what you're even looking for?
I called, asked to speak to a manager, as I will often do in things like this, and said, I don't tell them specifically why, but I'm looking to see if a person came through, and I provide a general description of that person and what it is that they may have purchased. Usually that's enough. That's what I did in this case. That's enough for them to find if they do or don't have that transaction on video. That's what I did.
So you have the time and the date, the 8/15 and July 11th, and you just give them a description and see if they can find anything that matches?
Correct.
Did they advise you they did?
They did.
Did you go to that Walgreens and obtain a copy of that surveillance footage
I did.
from multiple cameras?
Correct.
Did you also obtain a copy of the receipt of her purchase?
I did.
My paralegal can approach with 216.
I can't remember. I think she was blurred out.
And so looking at 216, do you see an affidavit for that Walgreens that you contacted regarding obtaining both the surveillance video and the receipt, as well as a copy of the receipt and the video itself?
I do.
Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 216.
You check,
No objection, Your Honor.
216 is admitted.
Yeah, you could definitely see Tylee in that interview. Are you talking
So,
about when they
for
were
this-
talking to Lori by the cop car?
Yeah,
on
but
the
I don't
street?
remember if she was slightly blurred out or not.
It was not at all blurred out.
Okay.
She was visible as all get out.
Oh, history and homicide said the same thing. I just blooped past him, laying the foundation or authentication. Jesus.
Wow.
There's my perimenopause princess. Right to the exhibit itself. So that's what I did. We're going to see the time looks like 8:29 or 8:19 a.m.
Receipt, it advises that at 8:19, there was a purchase for 2 different pairs of flip-flops.
Yes.
Okay. And that corresponded to what you observed on the video that is in this exhibit as well?
Yes, that's correct.
In watching this video, did you recognize the person making that purchase?
I did.
And who did you recognize that to be?
I recognized Ms. Lori Vallow, at the time now Ms. Daybell, from having seen the body-worn video and also having met her in person.
Okay. And the video that you obtained here, did you also incorporate that into a PowerPoint presentation that you created showing the GPS data location from July 11th of 2019?
I did.
Well, let me ask you, so did you create a PowerPoint presentation of the GPS data from Charles Vallow's cell phone for July 11th of 2019?
I did.
When you were creating this PowerPoint, did you use any phone records for other individuals such as Lori Vallow?
I did.
When you were creating this PowerPoint, did you utilize cell phone records, and I think you talked to us about the difference here, and cell tower data that was provided to you by the providers, and by providers I mean like a T-Mobile or an AT&T?
Those records were provided to Chandler Police Department, not to me directly. I later obtained copies that I used to incorporate in my presentation.
So were you aware of search warrants that were issued to obtain cell phone records to include cell tower data for several different individuals?
Yes.
So in your PowerPoint presentation, did you utilize GPS data That was for Lori Vallow's Verizon cell phone with a phone number of 808-755-5452.
One minor clarification,
Sure.
I wouldn't call it GPS data particularly. There's location
Cell tower
data,
data.
correct, but not specifically derived via GPS, as was the data from Mr. Vallow's phone.
And if I can have Exhibit 222.
No pebbles. That's been an ongoing point of comment and issue. And I'm going to blue past
David,
this.
too. From the our data that was, did you also become aware of the police executing a search warrant for another cell phone associated to Lori Vallow with
All right,
T-Mobile for
we're gonna
4
move past
on July 11th?
This too, while he's
Moved to it. Also made aware
authenticating different exhibits and go right to when
those
they
were,
those
Um,
exhibits on.
for instance, you told us that you were using the GPS data from Charles Vallow's cell phone and you went to Burger King.
Correct.
And were you looking at the times to see if the GPS data and time matched what you saw in that video?
Yes, with one slight correction. I went to the Burger King initially because it was the closest one. Later, when I was given the GPS data, I looked and saw that it did, in fact, accord to the Burger King. And then I went to the Walgreens because of what I had seen in the GPS data. In either direction that you do that in, essentially what I'm trying to do is make sure just because a device has logged a location at a particular date and time doesn't have to mean it was there. The device could be wrong. It could have been changed in some way. One of the things that we do to make sure that we are relying on good data only is to find other means of corroborating if the device was apparently at that location.
Thank you. So I had this plugged in here, if I can just admit it, but did you provide the state with Exhibit 209, that is a thumb drive of your PowerPoint, right?
Yes,
Did you sign, and I think put your badge number on the back of it?
yes, that's correct.
And that's something you created that we've talked about, incorporating all of these different records that we've discussed.
That's correct.
Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 209 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
209 is admitted.
Might be a good time to break
Right.
before we start with this.
All right, let's take our noon recess. I'll remind the jury of the admonition. We'll resume with the jury at 1:30 p.m.
All right. What time is our Delphi Live tonight, babe?
8 Central Standard Time.
Central. Okay. So what we like to do here is get behind time so that we've got blooping time past some
I
of the
set
nonsense.
I set the afternoon sesh for 4:15
Okay.
p.m.
So there's a half-hour delay anyway. So you built us in a 15 minutes or a half hour?
15 minutes.
I like when Bob builds in more.
I need a little extra time. I gotta prep for that live tonight. So I need because this, what did these typically go to? 7 our time?
Yep.
Yeah, so
So
that
you're
leaves
getting
me.
these right now too. You got an hour to work on it.
Yep.
All right, guys, we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for your super chats and your comments. I did put most of them up, but thank you all for your generosity. Chris,
Love you.
Natasha,
Out so from school.
Holly Claire, Kathleen, Camilla, Jim, Melissa, Charmin for being a member for 18 months, Melissa again, and Shannon,
Dad.
and
Hold on, Ron.
Melissa again, and Afton. Thanks all of you for your generosity, and we will see hopefully all of you back in an hour. And if you haven't hit that thumbs up, please do it. We love when you do that. And Scarlett, say goodbye to everybody, and we'll end.
Bye.
All right, y'all. We love you. And again, I have portaled everybody to the afternoon sesh for this. And then I'm going to portal y'all to the Pearl Mutter interview tonight from that one. So you guys shouldn't have to do anything. Should be good to go. We'll see you in about an hour and 5 minutes. Love
Bye.
y'all. Bye.
Bye.